sure I have my other laptop. Yeah, okay, I can verify that I'm seeing, you can see the slide. Okay, so last time we talked about word to web and also glove as well. So it's like basically you have when you have an NLP problems and natural language processing problem, and you start with like a sentence, and you are doing kind of like a word as a unit instead of like 2 lectures ago we talked about like using like RNN, that basically using character based like language model. So here like we use word as a unit, then the first step is like do the embedding, like each word we will find a good representation for that. So last time we spent a whole lecture to talk about like two famous approach, word to web and muscle glove, to create word vectors. And then like today we will talk about like attention and transformers. So as I mentioned, like RNN was the really everyone loved to use like for several years like for like natural language processing, until like suddenly this new kid in the block just came up with like basically this attention thing, and also like after we have the transformer. So but attention is actually not really that new. So at least it's not old as well. So in a very influential paper by the Benjio group, one of the big three, that from Montreal, that they have this paper like called Attention for Language Translation, like back in 2014. So the idea is like I guess I mentioned last time. So the problem with RNN, of course here they're thinking about translation problem. The problem of RNN is that like if I am going to translate some things, for example like uh, okay, I can speak Spanish. Actually, I cannot speak Spanish. But okay. Let's say. So if I use a classic RNN, so or like LSTM or whatever, like this is each of this is like this RNN or LSTM unit, right? So I have an initial state coming in. I have each word. After word embedding, I have the input. Like maybe I put a word embedding block here in the middle, but I just omit this here. So it's supposed to have word embedding block, and then like become a vector, and then input along with the state, like previous state, and then like to this RNN or LSTM cell, and then it create the next state, and then transfer to the next time instance. So I cannot here also have another embedding, and then so on and so forth. So after I finish the entire sentence, basically digest the entire sentence, then I have a kind of a summary of the entire sentence. Then I'm going to have this is just another input. This is will be like just a special character like start word or something like that, or just start, and then like this will along with the state spit out the next word. Then maybe spit out like the next state here, and also will output the word for the set the translate sentence. Maybe to Spanish would be like yo something like, and oh wait a sec, actually sorry about that. I should actually Joe should go here, and then I go to the next. This is basically stay, and then this will also go as the input again. So I have Joe coming in, you know, I don't know you, I don't know what, and then I something like go to here, and then maybe habla something like Espanol, stuff like that. So and this is basically how you use RNN for translation. But as we mentioned last time, if your sentence becomes very long, the problem is that you're relying this NN or LSTM to remember a long sentence, and then try to spit out like the entire sentence afterward. And LSTM, of course, is a little bit better than the original RNN cell, but it still is not perfect in terms of memorizing stuff. So, and of course, in practice, when someone really translate actual translator human translator trying to translate a long sentence or a paragraph, it's not going to remember the whole thing and then start translating. For example, if I look at this thing here, I probably will just starting this word and then I try to translate maybe original, I don't know. Original, I don't know what's that for Spanish. Anyway, so but you just go one word at a time. Like maybe that's for some other languages, the word order can be quite different. For example, Japanese will be very much different from like all these other Western languages, as the word will kind of like put in the very end like often. So, but that's something like if you are translating, for example, like if I'm translating like uh, 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 Japanese to English, then my subject maybe is here, but then when I lead to the next word, I'm probably looking at the verb there. So I should go to the if this is a Japanese sentence, I don't know. Uh, Watashi wa uh, now I really don't remember any um, Spango wa harasemasen, something like that. So, but and the word basically I cannot speak harasemasen is basically at the end. So I when I translate this to English, I'm actually or yeah, when I try to translate that, I know that I should look for the word after I find the subject here. So I should go to the very end and look for the corresponding verb there. I'm trying to translate that and then going back and forth. So and of course our RNN doesn't have this feature. So when I remember and the whole thing, I don't have a special attention that like for a particular word I should go to here and there and stuff like that. Oh, I see there's some chat explanation that um, yeah. So anyway, so now that's how this attention comes in. So basically the attention model like back in 2014 worked this way. So it still have like a RNN structure, like so think of this the input sentence. For example, this is like as I said, like I cannot speak English or something like that, or I cannot speak Spanish, and then like this may be like to Japanese or something like that. This is I output the sentence here. Now what was going to do is I still like you're going to have one word at a time. Of course, you have a Japanese language of the word embedding for that word. So I start with like a start word something like start, and then I will try to spit out the stay there, and and so on and so forth. Now what was going to do is like it have for example like when I translate that this probably is like watashi wa, this is the first word there, and then first word coming in, and then like you have the stay, and the stay what when you jump from this stay. So of course I have this, let's say actually even I have this watashi coming in, I should have the start there, and start I'm trying to have attention with the entire input sentence. So what we're going to do is like we have this sentence is kind of summarized. Now it's also kind of summarized by a context here, this CT here. But unlike in the case of like RNN, this context changes when you move from one state to another state. So when I start from the first word there, I have start word here. Actually, I don't have any idea like where I should attend to. Maybe I attend to for everything. And then afterward, I will have the first word there, like I have watashi, something like that. That's I. And then and then from watashi, I again I try to have attention here. The next thing I need to look for maybe is a uh, uh, the object. Basically, I need to look for the object, right? So I need to look for the object. Probably I need to attend more at the end here. So therefore, like then I should have like Watashi wa Spangled. So basically, like here the Spanish is coming here. So the next word, of course, I omit there's Japanese have this preposition here. There's a y here, but it doesn't matter. So but the next word, like instead of like immediately attend to this thing first, like here I cannot speak here, like cannot and speak here. So I first attend like to the very end. I look for the object first. That's supposingly I want to train the model to do that. So and in practice, how it does that is pretty simple. So basically, as I mentioned, you have a context, and this context will keep changing each time, and you have the state. Now the state changes like from the previous day like st plus minus 1 to the next day st, which depends on, of course, the last day here, and also like what's the last decoded word, like what verb, Japanese word I translated to, like yt minus 1. Maybe this is watashi. And then like I have the context as well. Context this time is like, now at this point I want to look for the context here, and as I said, the context change state by state, and the context is like that. It's simply a kind of like a similar to a kind of some kind of match filter. So you want to it's like you want to generate this oh, okay. So I missed out this H here. So the H here is like when you have the input, you also have this RNN model here, right? So you have this input coming in. For example, I cannot speak Spanish. Then I will generate the state from the RNN, and I will generate like both like forward to from start to end, and also like backward from end to start. So I will put them together. So and this together will form one state, like this H. This is basically, this is a big H big T here, and then I, so the context will be that just weighted sum of these states here, these hidden states here, and it's weighted by this alpha tj. And as I just mentioned, that alpha tj is something like a match filter. It will determined by basically this etj here. Etj is just like matching like the current state with each of these state here. And of course, this is pretty kind of arbitrary at this moment here. You can think it as a function. In practice, it's often it may be just a inner product basically. So you see like how similar this state with like each of these hidden unit here. And then of course like to make it a normalized weight, we'll just like go for that with softmax. So therefore like this is like a softmax operation to normalize that. So then I have this context basically like this. So therefore like each time I will just have a different context. And then of course I have the state update. Then the output will be just based on the current context, and also the current state, and also the previous decoded word or previous translated word. Then I will have a probability for that. I have a probability model for that. So then I will say like for each of the possible vocabulary in Japanese, each of the word, like I will have a probability for that, and then I'll pick. I will essentially just sample that, like according to that probability distribution. So when those are more probable, then of course will be sampled more often. So this is the work from Banjo group like in 2014. Like any questions with that? Like this is the attention model, and this is just the beginning. So if you guys don't have any question, then I will just move on to talk about the next thing. This is a very actually this paper is very influential as well. I think it's more than 10,000 citation. I didn't check how many citation this paper has, but it definitely has a lot. So this is like the attention is all you need paper. attention, how do I spell attention, is all you need. And this paper introduced the idea of transformer. Actually, you see that like people talk a lot about transformer, like in electrical language processing. It's all originated from this paper, and it's still considering the same problem. It's trying to do a translation problem. So I have one language sentence from one language to translate to a sentence from another language. So it it has a model that, again, I try to improve upon our NN that use this attention idea, and at the same time, like, it's actually compared with the previous model, like from Bengio group. You see that like they're still using our NN here, right? So they have this attention, like at each state I can attend to different location of the hidden state generated by our NN model. But for this one, it basically abandoned our NN completely. So that's why they call it like attention is all you need. But to be fair, people also say like it's not just attention is all you need. You also have this like layer normalization, and also like a feed forward step like is also needed, and also this positional encoding. But basically, let's see. I will go into each of the component here. I'm just Oh, by the way, like one remark here I forgot to mention. Actually, I should mention like before that is, before people consider attention model like couple years ago, not couple years, yeah, couple years ago, like people also like consider using a CNN for natural language processing, because the idea is similar. So using RNN, you basically to memorize lots of stuff. You cannot attend to for example, if I have a translation problem, again, I have a sentence. If I use RNN, I need to remember the entire sentence before I got translation. But if I use CNN, if I have a multiple layer CNN, so what I can do is I have like one CNN going like that, right? So this is a CNN filter. So each time a CNN filter will just look at a neighborhood, right? So maybe I have some skip here, or like I can have no skip or something like that. But if I have like several CNN layer, then eventually like you have after multiple layer, you only have like look at one unit. It's basically seeing a wide block of words like from the input sentence. So, but the problem compared with like attention model is like is it's less data driven. If you can think of like, so if I train the CNN, the weight is fixed. Right? Once I train the model, these weights are fixed. It's no longer changed. But if you have an attention model, it kind of like adjusts, the weight is kind of adjusted with like the current sentence here. So in a sense, like it probably will give you more better performance potentially because of that. And so now I'm really going to talk about this transformer model. Maybe I should erase this first. Yeah. So it has several components, but the most important component probably is this multi-head attention. So basically, what we have is that we have some word here. So words coming in. Again, like a sentence. By the way, if you look at the models here, what the model have is something like this. Okay, maybe I should first explain like what this model is supposed to work. So I have the input sentence. So I can have the input sentence and the entire sentence. I will do some word embedding. So again, like if I have like I cannot speak Spanish, then I will have each of the word I have the corresponding embedding. And then I will have this so-called positional encoding. So maybe I'll go into that like later. I won't talk about. But anyways, it's just a slight modification of your word embedding. So therefore, the dimension of your word embedding is still the same. So then afterward, like you plug into this thing. This is as long as a transformer block. You'll go into more detail of that. And then after the transformer, what it does is that you can think of like it's kind of translating the representation from the original representation into a kind of like a new representation here. And it and wait a sec. Yeah, and also like this this dimension is more or less the same. For example, there's like forwards here at the beginning. After this transformer, you also have forwards here, something like. And then like now, if you look at on the other side, this is the decoder block. So what we are going to do here is like we will start with like one word at a time, of course, like, because I'm doing translation. I don't know anything about that, so I have a start word here. So at the beginning, I have a start word here. So it will go through something like also like this part here is more or less the same as this part here. This side here, this is like more or less the same as this one here. It's something along like self-attention. It's like trying to translate into a similar representation. So afterward, then I will kind of based on this. Now I'm trying to attend to like what I have at the encoder side. So whether I should focus on this one, or this one, and this one, and so on. And then like I have some feed-forward layers, and then I have basically like have several linear layers. So actually, this block here is another transformer. Basically, this will translate the original representation into a new representation, and then like you can think of you have a start word here. Eventually, you have something else. It's like just again like just one. You can find one word here. Then you will go for a fully connected layers, and then like generate probabilities that like what's the likelihood that the next word is supposed to be. So then I will have the next word. For example, the next word is like if this is Spanish again, it's like next word is yo, and then like or cho. I don't know how to pronounce that honestly. And then like this will in the next time you can see like the output is supposed to shift, right? And the next time instance you will have like start here, but you also have like start and yo here, two word now, right? And then like here also this will be a translation here on this side, self translate. This will have a attention to basically attend to which one now. So this part is trying to say, okay, the next word, which one I should attend to. This, of course, this only have two words here, but when you have like more words, you already like translated. So what it's going to do is not just trying to attend to different locations of your original like input sentence, but you also like since you already translate something, no, yo, no, habla, something like. So for the next word here, I'm trying to attend to this previous translated word as well. So which one I should attend more, and then also like, and at the same time like, and the input sentence, I also like see like which word like now I should pay attention more, and then eventually from these two combined together, basically by this guy here, I will again say have a new representation of the word, and then I'll decide what kind of probability I'm supposed to have, and so on. So it is a quick overview. So any question, I will go more into detail now for each of the block. Yeah, it is again. It's really quiet. So I assume you can catch everything I talk about. So even though I think like sometimes I really don't articulate very well, But so anyway, like please interrupt me if you have any question. So now then, like, if I go back here, so start from the beginning. As I mentioned, I have this multi-head attention is probably the most important component. If you look at this one here, after you have the word embedding, have a representation of your input sentence, what we are going to do here is let's see, is for each of the I'm thinking what kind of notation I should use. By the way, actually I have some now I think it's better I just write it here, it's better. So so okay, before going into like even multi-head attention, let's just look at like attention, like not multi-head, just like single head attention. So if I have a single head attention that will take input like Q, K, and V. So typically that's how it works. So this corresponds to like query, key, and value. So I have basically the attention model here is pretty similar to the attention model by the Bangio group. So what I want is say I want to generate something. I have you can think of like earlier you if you go back to here, I'm having something like a kind of a match filter of the current state with each of the hidden unit, right? So the state and hidden unit here is correspond to this query and key here. So we are looking for matches of this query and key. So I can have multiple keys here. So basically I have after the words coming in here, the word embedding, I have like several words here. Again, let's say I forward here. So now if I look at like the first word, like which one I should attend to, you can think of this is the query and this is the key here. Okay, I always confuse which one is query, but anyway, it's symmetric to me. I mean, it doesn't matter too much, I think. So, and so then I basically trying to do matching, right? I'm matching this query. I can have like several keys here. So I want to say which one match the best. So therefore, like I will just compute like query, key, and basically compute the inner product of that. So it's just the inner product between the query and the keys. So I can say like this key, maybe this is like K1, K2, K3, K4, something like that. And then like out of that, like I will try to normalize that, right? So again, I will try to normalize that into a probability. Therefore, I have a softmax here, right? So in the sense that it will make it like, for example, it's like Ki matches Q better, then this QKI will have a higher weight there. And then like my output therefore is but actually the output therefore is like QK QK. Oh, okay. I yeah. I'm thinking like, okay, this notation doesn't look right. Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, it's right. Actually, it's right. So, and okay, actually, I should think of this way because Q is a vector, K is a vector as well, right? So then, yes. So, actually, I think a better way is like, Actually, if I write like this, it's more like this is the Q is a vector. So okay, I will make something like okay. Don't I guess the notation is not important. The concept is important because someone can like fix the notation later on. So so let's say this again use the same kind of picture here. Let's say I have this one Q here. Q is just of course Q is also a vector here, but I have like four different K here, four different Ks here. So I have basically like this Q is trying to like do inner product for each of these K here, and then like based on that, I will weight the sum by the corresponding VI. So I guess use a summation notation is better, something like this. And in practice, people find that it's better to normalize this inner product with the number of the dimension of the K there. So, but this doesn't affect too much of the understanding. But that's basically like what's supposed to be. You have the given the query, you have several Ks there. You compute the inner product for each of them, and then like you based on the value, then you compare weights there, right? And you normalize that using softmax, and then at the same time, like for each of the Ks, there are the corresponding values there. So for example, if I go back to an example, for example, if I have keys here, again, like if I translate from maybe Japanese to English, watashi wa span go ga harasaimasen. So this is I cannot speak. Okay, this is cannot speak here. So I is here. So what I mean is like if I translate to like I cannot, if I go to cannot here, so let's say this is the query here. So I have this input Japanese sentence. Each of them, this word here have the corresponding K here. So I have this K1, K2, K3, K4, K5 here. Actually, I probably should Masen, let's say Masen. That's the same Masen should separate. This is actually cannot is here. If I separate, this is K5 and K6 here. So then, supposingly, my Q is trying to do an inner product with each of these K parts here. And I will have the best match with this guy here. So that's with like highest value. So when I normalize that, and at the same time, like for each of these words here, they have a corresponding word vector, like V1, V2, a representing representation, V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. So therefore, like this matches the best with this guy. So therefore, the output of this guy, the attention output of this guy will be most similar to this V6. Will be like kind of like V6, and then weighted with a tiny influence with other part of this guy here. So do I make myself clear? Yes.
Q with the Ki do some calculation. We got a specific number, right? Not the matrix. The Q with Qi to do the interproduct.
Oh, yes. This I'm doing in the product. I mean, like I hear this notation. I think it's like we can sort this out. But I think it will make it more complicated. Here, so I would just rather ignore this one here. But what I'm saying here probably is correct. The only thing I'm not sure I'm correct is like I've always have problem like the naming of Q and K, like which one should I say K, which one I should say Q. It may be like the other way around. It may be this is, but it doesn't affect like the understanding here. So, but this inner product, like, each of these will be a vector. So therefore, like each of them, the key. Each of the word will have a key.
When we do the product, we should get a specific number.
Yes, it will have a number, but because I have like several, I have the entire. I have like 6K here, right? So therefore, I will 6 numbers.
Okay.
So for these 6 numbers, I will compute softmax. So eventually, essentially just normalize that into a normalized to 1 for the sum of all these normalized to 1. And then I will use as a weight to weight the sum the corresponding v's there. Yes. So and the multi-head attention, and of course one thing is you may wonder if I go back to this picture here, you have this same word embedding is put into each of these here. So this multi-head and attention inside, they actually responsible to compute this Q, K, and V as well. So in practice here, what we are having is we have the word representation that let's see what symbol do I use. Okay, it doesn't. Maybe I just call it X, like the word representation X coming in X here. So I will multiply. Oh, actually, this I use QKV, but it doesn't matter. So I will multiply this X with weights to generate this Q, K, and V. So for example, for this watashi here, I have a corresponding word embedding, and then this X will multiply by this WQ here to generate a Q, and this X multiplied by this WK here to generate K, and so on. And this ways can be trained. So I can train this train the attention model to generate the corresponding QE keys and values. And the multi-head things is just that we do not have just one W or one Q here, but we have multiple W's here. So and for example, if I have N head, actually more often people use H head here. So then I will just have each of these WQ and WK and WV, and I will multiply each of them with this thing. So each of the attention will generate a representation. For example, this one generate one representation of this very similar to V6, as I said. Then I can have another set of WK, WQ, WK, WV, and also generate another vector. So I will cascade all of them. So if I have H has here, I will cascade each of them here. And then eventually, eventually that's basically the. Oh wait, actually, here I'm missing something. That should be a double lock here. Eventually, this multi-head output should be this cascade multiplied by another weight here, W lot here, to generate the final representation. And this happen for each of the word here. So for example, I have this, as I said, this is I have four words here. I going out have 4 representation here. I have this one trying to attend to each of this guy, right? I assume I only have 2 heads here, so I will do it one time, have 1 representation, then do it another time to have another representation, then I cascade them together, and then multiply by a W lot to have the final representation, then move to another word here and do the same thing. And that's basically the multi-head attention. Let's see. Yeah. So and then afterward this have this normalization. This layer norm here is you see this add and normalization. You can't add back to the original representation. This is same size here. So this final one is the same size here. So it's kind of similar to this was that like skip connection, you also put it here, so you have this representation, but then you add this back to the original here. And afterward, you do a normalization. It's just a layer normalization. It's like for this layer, it's like a batch norm, but you only normalize over the current layer. For the current layer, you compute the mean and the variance, and then you normalize that. So you just want to make sure that the output have the same kind, same average energy compared like with the input. So then we have a feed-forward layer. So this is just a simple feed-forward layer. And again, I do something similar. This is something special, a simple feed-forward layer. And then we repeat this n times. So this is a basically encoder part. So this is a we handle the input sentence. So and then like if you look at the decoder part, this part is essentially identical. This part, this is nothing different from that part. So, but as I mentioned, like this one here is trying to attend to the input part, right? And this one is trying to translate what you have so far. So you have like, for example, as I mentioned, I have a start word here. I translate into, let's say, translate to English. Then I have I finish two words. I have start I. Then I'm trying to handle the next word here, and my next word is trying to see like which one I should attend to for the part I already decoded, and then based on that I create a new representation for myself instead of the original word embedding. So that's the nice thing, right? I don't, the original sentence I cannot speak or something like that, but based on like what you already translated, if you ignore this part, you are just simply using the original word embedding, right? But we are saying that like based on what you are you already have been translated, we should modify this representation a little bit, right? And this is handled by this part here. And it have a small trick here in terms of practical implementation, is that because you're not supposed to kind of attend to the future, so I can have like some during training, what you're thinking is like, for example, like let me just erase this part here. I mean, what I'm showing right now, of course, is still in testing. It seems completely normal, right? But if you think of like, okay, during training, so what I have is I have, again, what sentence I'm translating again. I say like, I say like I have a Japanese sentence and then translate to get back my pen. I translate to I cannot speak Spanish. So now during training, when I am working on this word here, I'm not supposed to attend to Spanish, right? Because I don't see that. I'm not able to see that yet during testing, right? So during training, I need to make sure that like I only attend to stuff that is in the past. I cannot attend something like in the future. So therefore, like we have more people modify this block a little. We have this so-called mask, multi-head attention. What it did is basically just like just before you do the softmax here, you have like everything in the future you just minus infinity. So in the sense like for everything like in the futures, I'm not going to attend to, basically only will attend to like things in the past. So is that clear? Besides that, it's basically exactly the same as this one. There's nothing new there. So as you can see, after we attend to this guy, then we can attend to the original input sentence, and then like again we have some feed-forward layer, and then this repeat like n times. Again like this block, therefore like again like it's known as a transformer. I guess in the sense that this encoder transformer, decoder transformer, decoder transformer, because you don't really change the representation dimension. The input dimension is like the same as the output dimensions, kind of. But you yeah, but you just like kind of extract lots of information along the way, and then like after you have this final representation again, like if I am doing this translation, and as I mentioned, we can just speed out like from this fully connected layer to speed out the possibility, the probability distribution of like all the possible of the potential of the word um, of the next words, basically the distribution of the next words. So any question here? So I guess okay, the only part I'm missing here is this positional encoding. So as you can see here, the model itself doesn't have any position information, right? Because the attention model here, I can move things around, it doesn't change anything. I can move this word like to here, like here to here. Then if you go through each of the steps here, I do this attention, like just basically doing inner product with this guy to see like which one is match well, and then I will just rate the sum of that. I switch the words here, it doesn't change anything in my representation. Of course, it's kind of doesn't make any sense. So therefore, like what people does is like they try to encode the positional information into the word embedding here. Instead of the original embedding, I just add a code there. Literally just add that, like it's just like mark. It's something like that. Let's see how do I read this. Yes, okay, I should read like this. So, for example, like this is the word embedding dimension. Like typically, I think this is the original attention is all you need paper is using a word embedding of like 512 dimension. So for each of the word. So it basically will add this vector to that. As you can see, the vector, this is the vector. So depends on the location of the word. So if it's like the first word is location 0, you add this vector. If 1, you add this vector up to like this 19, you add this vector. So it's nothing magic there. They just turns out using a sinusoidal. This is a sinusoidal stuff here, and many argues that probably different encoding, positional encoding probably won't matter much in terms of the performance, as long as I think it should be somehow a little bit continuous, in the sense you want to say like the position here and here is kind of similar, right? And like I don't want this vector and this vector to be too similar, because otherwise I will say like the location, if I move a word like from here to all the way here, it won't affect too much. So besides that, like intuitively it doesn't the way how you generate this pattern doesn't affect too much. So therefore I don't even bother to go into the equations. I think this gives you a good idea like what they're doing. So that's basically the attention paper. Let's see if I miss out anything. Attention is all you need paper, and next I just give a few words of some other models. So this is like all kind of like kind of following work of the attention, the transformer model. So for example, this one is known as this GPT model. Is a generative pre-training model from OpenAI. Basically, it's just saying that okay, the original like attention is all you need paper focus on this translation problem, right? So I have this whatever, English to Japanese or like Japanese to Chinese or whatever. Now, if I don't care about like the task, actual task, if I just want to create a representation, then I can actually just use the uh, I can just use the decoder side, right, for example, to create a language model, a word probability model. So basically, this is just self-attention. I ignore this part, right? So this is just repeating this. I can remove this guy here. So this is I just have this mask attention, always attend to my previous words, and then try to spit out the next word. Next word. So therefore, it's very similar to the character-based model that you see before, like you saw before in RNN. So this, if I just train, like give a Wikipedia and or like all the possible tests you can find. So I will have a word embedding. I train using either glove or whatever, create a word embedding, and then afterward I can train a transformer model here that just ignore the encoding part, just use the decoding part, and try to spit out the next word. So I have sentences I cannot speak Spanish. I want to like when I say I cannot, I want to able to spit out this character with this word with certain probability. And if you do that, like so, you can train a model, right? So and then like with this language model, actually you can do lots of stuff as well. You can use this language model. That's why the paper known as a generative pre-training is that you create kind of a generative model of languages, right? Pre-training is in the sense that afterward you can use that for any other task. So I will just give a few examples of tasks you can handle with this. For example, like after you train this GPT model, you can do classification, for example, sentiment classification, right? So you input a text and with like position embedding and so on, then you have a representation, right? I'm using this representation, and let's see, task prediction, task classification, and then like you can train a linear layer to do classification. For example, like have the new representation, and just from that representation, I can just train a regression model to predict the or like just something like SVM or anything to predict the sentiment of a sentence. Or I can do entailments. So this is something a problem trying to test if like the second sentence is based on the first sentence as a premise. So basically, like you will input something have a start word, and then you put in the premise, and then you put a delimiter, and then a hypothesis, and there's an end there, and then like go for this transformer model, and then you spit out a presentation, and then you go for a linear layer, and then you trying to train this linear layer to see like whether it's like it's an entailment or not. Similarly, you can do something like similarity. This is very important. Like for example, like I heard that like for online forums, for example, Stack Overflow, like online Q&A, like people post lots of questions there, and oftentimes like they say like people are just very creative. They ask a complete same question with no words in common. So you just want to know that like these two questions are actually identical, so therefore they can refer to one another, or like just don't let the user to ask that question, so that don't try to avoid duplicate question. So in this case, you will have like sentence one, sentence two, and then you have sentence two, sentence one, and then you go through this transformer model again. You try to do some linear regression to see whether they are similar or not. And you can even do like multiple choice, like Q&A task. For example, you have this context is like just a paragraph and maybe paragraph and then a question. Then you have like several answers that you can pick, and then you put in the answers here, and then again you go for this transformers model, and then you you go for linear, so train this linear part here, and then like see which one will have a higher score. So if the one with higher score is, say, this is the correct answer. So this is the GPT model, and that's also like the newer GPT model, GPT-2. I also want to mention this very famous model called BERT. It's a bidirectional encoder representation for transformer. It's a kind of mouthful, but what it does is like kind of similar to GPT. It's like if I just want to generate a language model, and then I am not looking into a particular task, then I can pre-train a model with this transformer, and we can make it like very, maybe I erase some of this up here. I can like remove some of the blocks here. So for example, for GPT, I will just simply ignore this encoder side here. And on the other hand, for BERT, what it does is remove the decoder side here. It kind of like create a model. This is kind of like you cannot use the model in the sense to generate language, but it's more like a fill in the blank model. It create a fill in the blank model. So basically, you have this. I'm not sure I spend time here. So okay, maybe I will skip this first. So basically, you train the model that to pre-train the model with this task here. So using this so-called like mass language model. So you have a sentence here. For example, I have sentence: the man went to something like store. He bought a gallon of something like milk. So basically, like the input is like two sentences. So you have some of the word masked. So you want to figure out, like, let the model figure out what's this word here. So then you train it, it's like you have basically just an encoder, right? You focus on this one, and you want to see, like, based on like attend to like the labeling word here, and decide like what's the reasonable word to fill in this empty space here, or the mask space here. So you just have lots of this sentence with like just a word mask. So and that's the nice thing is that this is some kind of like this self-learning idea, right? Because you don't need to label data, right? You can just like get to like Wikipedia, and then you just randomly mask some of the word there, and then like you can use this to train the model. And it also like have another task. When it pre-train the model, it used two tasks actually. This is one of the tasks I mentioned. The other task is like to do a next sentence prediction. So like what I have here, basically I have the man went to something store, he bought a gallon something milk. So I want to determine, I have the model to determine whether like the second sentence is the next sentence of the first sentence. So again, like, this is like automatic, right? If you have a task here, I don't actually need to do anything, any labeling, or I know right away whether this is the next sentence or not, right? And I can also create this counter example. Of course, theoretically speaking, like you may also come into case that like you automatically pack two sentences together, and they turns out to be like one sentence or two with another, like. But anyway, like, most of the time it won't happen, right? So and then like you just pack two sentences, for example, the man something to the store, and then like your penguin something a flightless bird. And so this is like of course it should be not next, something like that, and trying to train the model to do this. And with the BERT model, you can let's see how I'm doing time. Actually, I want to have low clock here. Okay, I have 10 minutes. So with the BERT model here, it can do these several different tasks here. So for example, I can do a single sentence classification. So it is similar to like what you use for GPT, right? So you have this like train transformer model, you just put in the sentence here, you do the embedding and then go through the model, then you have this new kind of representation here, and then you can then pre-train. I'm not sure. This one it doesn't look like it add another layer, but here it just say use the first word here as the class label. So you may need that to pre-train a little to make the first vector here, or like the first output here as the class label. And you can also do something like okay, this is like very much similar. Right? You see like sentence pair. If you have two sentences, you want to, for example, determine whether this is an entailment. The second sentence is like the outcome of the first sentence. Then again, you can first have a BERT model, and then you can fine tune that, like to pre-train the first label to be the class label. And we can also do this kind of link. What's that called? Like link entity recognition. Oh, is that link entity recognition? I forgot. I better like make sure I say something correctly. Yeah, link entity recognition. So so you have a sentence here. You want to decide like for each of the part, what is that? Like whether it's a person, whether it's an object, and so on and so forth. So what we did is that you again you have a BERT model, and then you try to pre-train like each of this outcome here to be a label for whether this is a different kind of entity. And then like also we can do question and answer. So it's similar to like what we did in G. Actually, in this case, a little bit different. So the this question and answer, this is actually a data set from Stanford, and it have questions that like is I don't have example here, but you have like a paragraph that followed by a question, and basically the answer is actually inside the paragraph there. Actually, like question is a paragraph here. So the answer is actually inside the paragraph here. So what what they can do is that they input the question, the whole question here, and then the whole paragraph here. So then like they will try to create a marker here. So then for the paragraph for each of the parts here, they will see where it start. Like for example, like if I have the some of the label determine is start, some of the label determine is end. Okay, I forgot the detail actually how did they label it, but the idea is like then you determine like which one is start and end, then you know like which part is basically the answer. Right? I need some water actually. And let's see. And for BERT model, they also have positional encoding, just like in the original. Attention is all you need. But also they you can also like include like a segment embedding, like this one here. So for example, if you have two sentences, and basically that the input, the pre-trained model always have two sentences, right? So therefore, like the first sentence have like one segment embedding, and then the other sentence have another segment embedding, and then you add this along with the positional embedding to the token embedding or the original word embedding to get the final word embedding. Let's see if I. Sorry, I try to take a look of my notes, but my tab here is very slow, and I try to flip pages. Okay, I don't know why it's just go back to the first page again. Oh yes. I think I can't complete most of the stuff I like to talk about. I don't think unless I like to talk about also XLNet, but I think I probably won't. Um, this is like another like really big models that um, is getting attention because it's for a long time like BERT is kind of the king of the hill. Basically, it's the best model. Then like as XLNet come in, is like actually beating BERT. But I don't know. Like in terms of like we are just I don't know not actually working that as like what's that word like kind of like just a hobbyist like working on this like rather than just like really we're working on that for fun. I don't think it's much matter too much. We see that the performance difference is like 2%, like 10%, something like that. Um, and but the XL lab model is huge, and then if you look at like how they train this model, um, I mean if you want to train from scratch, it will be really expensive. For example, XLNet they use like this 512 like TPU chips like for 2.5 days, 5 times more than BERT. I think I watched a YouTube video and then that guy say described the XLNet and that he mentioned that like he came across a blog and saying that like how expensive to train this model is about like a price of a house like 400K something like that. Um, and uh, so I don't know, but for uh it maybe just a oh, do I still have time? Let's see. Yeah, I have a couple minutes. So maybe just a few remark of this XLNet. What was different of this like from like BERT and so on? Like it's actually going back a little bit like the RNN model. It's like going back and forth like again like similar to the original attention paper, something like that. That you have like RNN first like kind of like get summary of this kind of information. So have part of this RNN here. But what they did is like they don't just look at one particular order like just this way and this way. They randomize lots of different orders. So therefore like you can go like all of these combinations here, and that's why they gain in performance. Um, but I won't go into detail for this one. And but for all these models, like for example, BERT and also GPT, you see why people are so excited is that like, of course, if you train this model from scratch, it's extremely expensive. But once you have the trained model, you can refine it. It's just similar to like Alex Lat and so on. Like you can refine that like for different tasks. So like what we did here. So the refinement for this particular task is not that expensive. So therefore, I think like if you guys, of course, you guys already determined your project, but if you guys are interested, you can really look into some of this, and this should be pretty cool. And I guess I'm pretty good on time. I'll just stop here. You guys have any questions? Uh, I'm happy to answer that.